Hey, Cody, welcome to the Profit and Grit Show. How you doing?
I'm doing great, sir. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk with you. You are like, I don't know if this is a word, but the most realist dude that I've met. So I'm just so excited to have this honor. I'd love to
Thank you.
start about learning a little bit about you. What do you do professionally? And then I'd love to know a personal note about you.
Yeah, professionally, this is my life. Cowboys, what we do every single day. The business, it's everything. It's everything to me and my family. When it comes to personal, it's funny. All I do is work, It's kind of like how we were talking about earlier. I really like to give my all to something. And regarding what we were talking about with, the football thing and all that, I like to see people give their all and see what happens at the end. And that's kind of what my journey is right now. I'm trying to give my all to this and sacrifice everything I can possible and hopefully come out on top. But professional wise and personal wise, Cowboys is everything to me. I put the business first, even over myself. I know it sounds a little crazy sometimes, but I feel you got to be kind of crazy, to get there. So that's basically what I do every single day.
So running an HVAC shop with your family, can you kind of paint us a picture a little bit, like what family members are part of your business? Where do you fit in terms of your role in the business?
Yeah, so running the business with the family, every single person's involved. My two brothers, I call them my finance bros. They're working our finance and our accounting department.
Right
Oh
on.
man, my sister's a killer. She's actually our installation manager. My sister's our installation manager. My uncle, my mom, my dad. They try to work as much as they can in the business, but I think, for them already, they've already kind of seen how dedicated we are to it. So they kind of took a step back these past couple of years, but that's everybody that's in the family. It's my two older brothers. I mean, my older brother, my older sister, my little brother, we're all involved. It's everything to us.
That's awesome. Has there ever been, or do you ever envision this possibly happening where a family member might not fit into the business?
Yes, to a certain extent, but I think how my father raised us is that we're gonna make it happen no matter what.
Okay.
I think one of the family members would have to literally say, "Hey, I do not want to do this," but we've all had the conversation before. We understand it's going to be a struggle. We understand it's going to be a fight. We understand we're going to have to climb a mountain doing what we do, and especially working with family, it's kind of tough because there's a lot of emotions involved. But at the end of the day, we understand when we walk in the door, it's business. When we walk out of it, we'll die for each other. So I think it's how my father has raised us, to be honest.
Yeah, that's cool. Because it is, I work with a lot of family owned companies and the dynamics, it can get intense. I mean, family members have different viewpoints. They have different ways of doing things, different ethics, even their belief in terms of how much money the business is making. I've had cases where, one family member thinks it's a piggy bank, and then, the other family member is the more frugal one, and it causes a lot of friction.
Of course, I definitely see that. I see it. I'm sure it's happening out there. We're just really close when it comes to our family, and we all kind of have the same mindset. And I think that's the biggest thing. All of us being on the same page, being able to have those difficult conversations with each other, but still understand, hey, when we walk out the doors, we love each other. So yeah, definitely.
That's very cool. Okay, I kind of want to get into the story. I want to start from the beginning. So, what your dad's the one that started this business, I believe. If I have the story correctly, I'd love to just go down it. He got fired or laid off. I'm not sure of the exact situation on Christmas Day. Probably laid off, and there was probably a reduction in force. Play that out. How do you wind up into Cowboys? I mean, how does it go from hey, I'm unemployed to now I've got a $20 million plus HVAC shop many years later?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually picked a specific day because it's my dad's birthday. That's the reason why I picked the day for the podcast. It's actually my first podcast ever too.
Wow.
So I want to tell you, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come here and explain share my story. And, I kind of feel like we are at the point to where I should start stepping out of my box and, share the story and kind of help other people with the same stuff that we're going through. But actually my mom and my uncle started our company. So my
Okay.
dad's a true technician by heart. My uncle's a true installer by heart. My mom's a true CSR by heart. So my dad, it was actually Thanksgiving. He gets laid off. He gets fired on Thanksgiving. His company basically told him he was a comfort advisor, sales tech, whatever you want to call it, at the company, and they ended up letting him go for whatever reason. I remember to this day, they came to the house on Thanksgiving. We cleared out his van in the driveway, and basically just went from there. My dad's always put our family first. So when my mom and my uncle came to him saying, "Hey, let's start our own company," he said, "Man, there's no way. I got to take care of the kids. Got all these bills. I'm just gonna go keep doing what I know." So he went ahead and started applying other places. Of course, he got a job. My uncle and my mom, they went on with, the chance, the dream that they had. And my mom would cold call from the kitchen table. I remember she would make us dinner and she would get straight to cold calling. And we would just sit there and listen to her all day. She would go pass out flyers. We would go help her pass out flyers in the neighborhood after school. My uncle would go out, take the job, install the job. And they just got to a certain point to where they called my dad and said, "Hey, we got to where we want to be, to where we think you can come on and we can make a living out of it." And the rest is history.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And when so they were kind of bootstrapping it, your mom and your uncle, right? Because it sounds
Oh,
like, I mean, she's doing it from the kitchen, taking cold calling people. That's pretty insane.
100%. So every single year, we actually give my parents a little gift at the end of the year, just a little appreciation. And 2 years ago, we framed this big picture that sits upstairs in the main office, and top left of the picture is the house where they started a company, and then it goes to our next office and our next office and our next office. But yeah, you're exactly right. My uncle and my mom, they put their heart and soul into this place. And like I said, we used to help my mom pass out flyers in neighborhoods. And it's just it's a crazy story. And I don't think my parents has ever had the chance to explain it. So I'm glad and grateful I'm in this position to be able to share their story for
It,
them, because
it's
they definitely deserve it.
it's very cool. And then did your dad, once he joins the company, does he kind of at some point step forward and he becomes kind of the front of the company in terms of decisions and moving things around?
So when you mentioned I'm one of the realest people you've ever met, I just strictly get it from my dad. Today, it was like I said, it was his birthday, and my older brother gave him a picture book of his 60 years, and there's a picture of him at my age, and we literally look identical. And it's
Wow.
funny, everybody was like, "Man, you and dad look the same," but I get it from him. Once he stepped into the business, he's so encouraging, and the minute he's that type of person, when he steps in the room, he doesn't have to say a word and everybody just gravitates towards him. It's crazy. I would, when I lay down my head at the end of my life, I hope and pray to God I'm at least half the man he is. So yeah,
Yeah.
he's definitely, he stepped in and he took it from there. And my mom and my uncle just followed him. And I mean, we're where we're at today because of all of them, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, you definitely have that quality too, and we'll get to that in a few
Thank
minutes.
you.
I think we have some good stories. And hopefully my research, I think I've already missed a couple things here in terms of
It's okay.
details, but does your dad, doesn't he have a sign on his door that says it's not for sale? Is that correct?
Definitely. So he kind of wanted to, like I said, they took a step back these past couple of years. He's been trying to figure out what they can do within the business. Like I said, it's everything to us. He even showed up today on his birthday. I'm like, "Man, I got a broom." I was trying to push him out of here. I'm like, "Man, get out of here. Go enjoy your birthday." But he's was thinking about doing a podcast himself. And behind the podcast, it's still up in his office. We haven't started nothing, but the reason for the podcast is because we kind of just wanted to talk about what we do every single day, and
Yeah.
for something for him to look back, I guess, as a memory. But yeah, he has a sign behind it that says "not for sale." Reason being is because my dad's all about legacy. It's all about family. And I don't know if I shared this with y'all, but when we talked last time, a couple years ago, I went up to his office. We talked, and he told me, "I don't care about you." In so many words, in Al's words. There's a little bit more to it, but he said, "I don't care about you, right?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" In my head, and he's like, "My mission and what I care about the most are the people that are going to come after you, your kids, your siblings' kids, our employees' kids." And, he's not a sellout. And as much as I know it might ruffle some feathers out in the industry, but it's not about money to my dad. My dad is here to change people's lives. And I know he knows if he did ever sell, it's going to affect a lot of people here at the company. A lot of people are either going to have to go look for another job, or they're going to have to be comfortable or okay with the new owners that come in here. And my dad's not the type of person to turn his back on anybody. He feels like he owes everything to everybody, even if he doesn't. And that's just the man he is.
Wow. That kind of gives me the chills because we talk about legacy a lot of times and it has meaning, but it's like a whole nother level when you're like thinking about your future generations of wanting to be able to give them a better life. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it really is. And so the building we're in here today, we've always rented the past couple offices we had. He went in ahead and bought this building we're in today. I think it's somewhere around 20,000 square feet. And we had a meeting with the whole company the first day we moved in. And I didn't even know this until that day. But he actually told everybody that he spent his life savings on buying this place. And everybody just stayed quiet. And he said the reason why is because he's betting on the brand that we wear over our heart. He's betting on the company, he's betting on the people, and he could have easily just kept all the money and retired and been comfortable. But he spent every single penny he had on this place because he is going to bet on the future. Man, he's just it's tough to talk about him because he's man, I can't even put in words the type of person he is. And hopefully I'm doing the best I can, but he is, one of a kind. He really is.
That's really cool. And by the way, happy birthday to your dad. You said
Yeah.
it's 60?
60.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow,
sir.
very,
Big
very
six
cool.
zero.
That's a new era. That's awesome. That's great. Hey,
Uh,
I want to go into the next thing that I think is really the audience can get a lot out of this, myself included, when I heard it. So you guys went in 1 year from about 5 million, I think it was 4.8 to 10 million. So you almost doubled in size. And I believe you attribute a lot of that to how you strategically changed call management. Could you talk through that and just what changes did you make? What impact did it have? And what did you learn from it?
Yeah, definitely. I call it call by call management. I'm not going to sit here and say I came up with it. I know we're going to get to this here in a little bit about recruiting and stuff like that, but putting the right people in place, understanding that bringing other people to the team that can do everything that I'm doing better than I can, and realize that I will be the bottleneck if I'm trying to handle everything is kind of an example to it. So in the beginning, we just had one of our CSRs dispatching. So when I did get involved in the business, I started trying to figure out, well, how can we increase revenue? How can we, get better to where we're at today? So I got in the field. My dad had me ride with the senior technicians, and I noticed with every single person I rode with, they clicked with every single individual customer differently. So I kept that in my back pocket. When I got into the office, when I would answer all the calls, schedule the appointments and everything, I noticed the relationship that I would build with the customer on the phone. I know my technicians so well to how they were the minute they woke up in the morning, what their attitude was, what they did on the weekends, what their hobbies were, who their families are, where they came from. I started to realize if I guess cherry picked, if that's the right word to say, if I cherry picked the calls the right way, if I manage the calls the right way, and I put the technicians in the best position possible to come out with the best outcome of the call and maximize it, we'll probably be able to bring more revenue in. So I had this guy that came here from Philadelphia that worked here, and I remember to this day, I'll use this for example. I picked up the phone, talked to this customer. I heard their accent. I knew they're up north from somewhere. I asked him, "Hey, where are you from?" And just a couple extra questions, a couple more genuine conversation on the phone. And he ended up telling me he was from Philadelphia. Well, boom, I noticed Jeremy's my guy. I know Jeremy's from Philadelphia. That's going to break the ice the minute he gets there. Common ground, relationship building. It's going to be perfect. So being able to manage the calls properly, the call by call management was a big significant part of our growth nowadays. And like I said, take this from, I'm not going to say I came up with this, but I heard this and I was trying to explain it to y'all the day we talked. And I heard this a couple of days ago from one of these new hires we got here, and he calls it dispatching for dollars.
I
And
like that.
when he said that, I was like, man, the way I'm trying to explain it to people, may not come off right, but when we dispatch, we got to dispatch in the intent of not just running the call, but actually maximizing on the call. So the call by call management is huge. And that's actually just like, really the first portion of it is getting the right tech to the right call, regarding of what we know, the information we gather on the phone. But it goes even to more in depth than that. We don't just let the technician run the call and then boom, he closes out and we move on to the next. Now to this day, there's many technicians, so I'm not doing it all by myself, but we'll have a call by call management person that will sit there with the technician and stay with him through the whole process of the call. The technician will actually call our call by call management team, game plan with the call by call management team, and let them know, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is the objections you're already telling me. How do you think we can overcome it? If they don't already know. And I kind of missed a step as well, but our call by call management team will actually call the customer first, ask a couple questions, see what's going on the call, gather some more information, and then we'll call the technician and say, "Hey, you're headed to Mr. Jones' house. This is what he told me over the phone. This is what he's experiencing. This is his pain points." Fast forward, technician goes to the call, builds a relationship with the customer, does his process. We'll game plan the call again, and then from there we'll go in, we'll game plan, the options on what we're going to build that's, pertaining to the situation. And then even from there, the technician, when he does go into the home, if he's kind of not clicking with the customer, or if the customer is kind of not getting what he's recommending or explaining, the technician will call from the table as well and say, "Hey, I'm sitting here with Mr. Jones. We went over X, Y, and Z. These are his concerns, whatever the case may be." And it's a playbook. We really don't just dispatch the call and say, "All right, see you later. Good luck. Have a good day." We make sure we maximize every single call possible and take as much information we can from the call, the customer, and help out the technician along the way, because that's where we're going to see the growth and the revenue that comes in. And I feel like a lot of companies, when it comes to dispatching, they don't really realize how important it is. They think they can just have a CSR, just dispatch the call. But when I was originally doing it, I would go through, even if the customer has been with us from 2008, I would go through every single invoice and get it real detailed for the technician, let him know what he's going into, just so we can, set ourselves up with the best success rate as possible.
So when you were doing it, obviously you controlled the environment and probably had a certain level of quality, and you knew everyone where you could match them up to the best that you could. Now that you have a team, how do you maintain that quality? Doesn't that get harder when you have a call by call management team? Is that hard to maintain that quality, or how do you do it?
It gets harder if the culture's not right at the company.
Okay.
Everybody here, if you walked into our building today, you would think everybody's related. We're all super, super close. We love what we do. We all love each other genuinely. And a lot of our, technicians will talk to our call by call management team. We'll sit down, have breakfast, have lunch. Our call by call management team will actually encourage and be a positive influence and voice to the technicians, because it's hard out there, especially when it does come summertime. And the other thing too is, like, we're asking these technicians to, leave all their problems at home. And at the end of the day, when you do get back home, the problems are still going to be there. So it's hard to, if you have something going on at home, to come to work, to perform and be successful. It's very, very tough. And, something else that I took from my father that I tell the technicians all the time is that if home is not right, don't expect work to be right. And I always make sure every single person is, home has to be right. The family at home has to be right. Everything has to be right at home for us to be able to perform properly and give 5-star service. And, you know, but regarding what you were saying, it would be hard if people just showed up and didn't care about what they do, or just showed up just for a paycheck, or just showed up just for a job. But we all understand, like, our technicians understand that our call by call management team is a big part of the company. So they lean into them big time. They actually talk more than anybody in the whole company because they're talking with each other all day. So regarding your question, I would say it would be hard if the culture wasn't where it should be, and culture is huge.
So those are great comments, and it kind of moves us into like the whole culture, people recruiting topic that I wanted to touch on. I get that the family has to be right, but in the blue collar world, and really any job, it's not just blue collar, but you do tend to get sometimes people. I had a client yesterday, their best technician, highest performing technician, has just the most sour, terrible personality. And I mean, I hear this a lot. It's not, I'm just picking
It's
up a conversation yesterday. So
no, it's true.
how do you deal with that? Like, I mean, you must have to, I imagine you're not immune to it, even if culture's strong. Do you just cut them out pretty quickly? They don't fit, or are you able to somehow manage to that?
It's the toughest thing ever, because exactly what you said, with them being your top guy and them being, the revenue driver, there has to come a time to where you're going to either, you got to do what's right, and you got to do what's right for the company, because however big the company is, we're 60 plus. There's 60 other people here depending on Cowboys. So if you're going to jeopardize 60 other people's lives for one person, there has to be a time to where you sit down and you do what's right, and you got to make that tough decision. And that's where, your leadership team, your management team, they got to be able to make those tough decisions. So I'll give you another story. When my dad originally gave me, the opportunity to run the office or run the sales department, whatever the case may be. We always have a meeting January 1st, big meeting, and a couple guys, actually our top four guys, didn't show up to the meeting. And I told my dad, I was like, hey, like, and at the time we were very small. We were doing 4.8 at the time. And I told my dad, I was like, hey, like, I know it's scary and, we're big believers in God and stuff. And I told him, like, there's no way we're going to be able to grow with if we keep catering to these guys. So he said, do what you need to do. I let go of those guys. They're all four bringing
Wow.
in the $4 million that we were trying to scavenge for. I hopped in a van. My dad hopped in a van. There was an installer that was begging, begging, begging to be a tech. He hopped in a van. One of the guys did show up on time. He was in his van. And then we had a real green kid come out of school. He hopped in a van. And I mean, I just took the chance. And I remember to this day, it was pretty crazy because I remember that night I went home crying. I was like, man, what the heck did I do? What did I do? And like I said, I mean, I'm a big believer in faith in Christ. Faith is actually one of our core values here. And the next day or a couple of days later, I end up getting my number one guy that's here today. He's been here 5 years. He rolled in through our doors and he brought a couple other guys from his company. I got some other guys that started applying online. And that's when we shot up to the 10 million. And it was just it was a big decision to make. And it was just trusting the process,
Yeah.
trusting the process and making the right decision.
So I want to get into that. I'm glad you brought that up. So I think I got two more things on culture because I think they are really symbolic of how you really actually breathe and live what you're talking about. Regarding your top performer, can you take us through that story? So I know it's common sometimes when you're driving in a wrapped vehicle, you're often told, "Hey, park up front so everybody can see your vehicle." And I think one day you were going out to lunch. Can you take us through that story in terms of how I think the attention to detail here is what stands out to me, and how sometimes the littlest things that you can do can have a dramatic effect on your long term?
Yeah, so I always knew that our family had something special, right? We always treat everybody right. We always put everybody first. I mean, any of us would take our shirt off the back, off our back for anybody. But I just knew we didn't have the right people.
Mhm.
And the minute I'll say his name was Franco. The minute Franco walked in and I interviewed him, he was $3+ million producer at his previous company, and he explained to me how the owners and the other company didn't treat him right. And I knew that I was going to treat him right. I knew that everything he was looking for was what I had, and everything that he had is what I was looking for. So Franco came along, and then he brought some other people. Fast forward, still, like I'm telling you, my dad's still trying to figure out what to do in the business. He's headed home one day from the office, and at the time we had a couple guys that we lost, a couple moved, whatever the case may be with the other guys. And we were trying to figure out, man, we need some other A players that got to come into the company because, we're pushing for the 20 million and we're trying to figure out, man, like who else can we bring to the company that's going to raise the bar even higher? My dad's driving home. He sees there's a company in town called Champion AC. They're a pretty big company in town. They're one of the private equity companies. And he sees a couple of Champion trucks, sitting outside of a Chili's. And he does a huge U-turn, turns around instead of going straight home, walks into the building, and he ends up bringing two of our A players that we have here today. And it's funny, I was actually talking to one of them yesterday about it, and he basically told me that he would not be here if it wasn't for my dad. And my dad was the realest person he's ever met his whole life. And the minute my dad spoke to them, he believed everything that he said. He believed in, his goals, his vision, the future. And my dad ends up just stopping, just turning around, pops into Chili's. And so there's two brothers.
Yeah.
And the little brother, I say the little brother, they're like 6 months apart. He wasn't getting an opportunity that he should have gone where he was at, but the older brother was. So the little brother said, you know what? Heck yeah, I'll jump on board. Older brother said, you know what? I'm doing too good over here. I'm good. Little brother comes here, simply didn't get the opportunity that he should have gotten. He's actually one of our top guys today. He ends up doing amazing. He ends up performing at a really high level. And then on top of that, you know, being a part of our culture, he loves where he's at. He starts explaining to his older brother, like, man, you can make the same money, probably more, but actually be happy where you're at, actually be part of something greater than, basically what those other people are, portraying to y'all. And his older brother ends up coming. He was actually their top guy over there. And, it took a big leap of faith for him to leave, but the company and our culture is what sold him.
Yeah.
And I mean, just if my father didn't stop that day, those two guys wouldn't be here. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
I love the story too, because like your dad stops. I
mhm.
think he hands them their cards because they don't really know him that, or maybe know of him. He hands them his card, and then there's two brothers, and then one brother kind of takes the bait, so to speak, over a period of time. I'm sure it didn't happen
Yeah,
instantly, and then that buys the credibility of the high producing brother. Well, the one brother gets his opportunity now, and that buys the credibility of the high producing brother, which by the way is taking a leap of faith, willing to leave a high paying job to come to you guys, which says a lot about you guys that he's willing to do that. I mean, that's just such a cool story because so many of us don't do that turnaround and do a cold introduction to someone we don't even know that theoretically is your competitor, even and could even be, those guys are probably like giving him a dirty look as he walked in at first, at least,
oh yeah.
and so it's just such a cool story. I think there's so much to learn from that. Those little moments are what make the difference to get from 10 to 20 million, essentially.
Yeah, and I think it's just, I know it's simple and silly word, but I think it's just, caring about the mission, and everybody here cares. My father cares still to this day, and he cared enough to stop and sit down and have a genuine conversation with these guys. And then, like I said, they believed in everything that they said. I would say I'm a split image of my dad. I end up meeting these guys, and they see the same energy and the same realness to say that my father had. And, it just everybody caring at the end of the day instead of just showing up for a paycheck and actually taking the extra step instead of just sitting in their office and waiting for talent to fall in their lap. If you care about where you're going, you got to take those extra steps. And our owner, I don't call him dad here in the building, but our owner, turned around and cared enough to stop. So yeah, it is a neat story. It really, really is.
It really is. Do you still, I know you created recruiting cards or like business cards, but they're recruiting cards. And I think you give them to staff and then there's some type of commission or something. Do you still do that? How does that, and if so, how did that work?
Yeah, so we made some recruiting cards because of what my father did, and it's kind of a little game now with our family. If I go to the gas station, my fiance hates it, but instead of us being there for 5 minutes to get our energy drink, I'm there for an hour talking to every AC company that's there. And it goes to show though, because like you said, in the sales tech world, not a lot of guys want to bring talent over because they feel
Right.
like they're taking food from their plate.
Right.
But every single one of our senior sales techs, they're out trying to bring talent over to the company because they understand, the more talent we bring, the more we grow. And everybody's gonna eat at the same dinner table at the end of the day. So it's like it's part of the culture that we have here is that everybody's not here just for themselves. They understand, and it starts from my dad. They understand that this place is what's going to essentially, hopefully, retire a lot of people. And people can here and say, this is the place where I do want to retire and finish my career and be able to take care of their family. So we made little recruiting cards, and even all of our top guys will try to bring other talent over here. So it's just all about the culture at the end of the day, and it's about everybody believing in what we do and what we say.
Yeah. That's very cool. And then one last thing on this culture side of things. I understand you have 60 plus employees. Do you still I believe at some point you shook the hands or you shake the hands of every employee. Do you still do that? And is that a daily thing?
Every single morning, every
You
single morning,
literally go throughout the whole office shaking everyone's hands.
whole office. I'll go to. We have a guy named Doug. We call him Dougie, and all he does is clean our office, cleans the warehouse, cleans the toilets, and I go and shake every single person's hand here because I want to let them know that I care about them. I want to see how their morning's going. And I also want to let them know it's game time. Every single time we get here to the office, we're here for one mission, and that's for everybody to better their lives. And I go shake every single person's hand here just to let them know I'm here. We need to show up. We need to get after the day. But more importantly, is just to let everybody know that I tell everybody good morning. Every single person that walks out of here, I wait for the CSRs to leave at night by the door, and I tell everybody good job today. And I just want to let everybody know that I'm not here for myself. I'm really here for everybody else here at the company. And, it may bite me later down the road in life, but I will put everybody first before myself. And I said earlier, when the day does come for me to lay down my head and take my last breath, hopefully I did change somebody's life. And that's all that matters to me. I don't care about myself, to be honest. I heard in church one time, the most selfish person is the man that doesn't put people first before him. So the reason why I do that is because I care about everybody else before myself, because I'm here for them. I'm here to make sure that I give my 100% effort for them and their family.
Yeah, that's very cool. I got two other things I wanted to get into. One is you have a pretty competitive market for private equity. What does that look like? How do you guys compete with private equity? What do you think you do that allows you to set your guys' self apart and people will work with you?
When it comes to private equity, a couple years ago when I very first started working in the office, I was all for selling because the big shiny trophy that you get at the end called money. And
Yeah.
the more and more my dad kind of explained to me, what the real purpose is of, just simply being on this earth is to change people's lives and to leave a legacy behind. And the biggest thing that for me is I'm afraid my name's not going to mean anything. I want my name to at least mean something to somebody when I take my last breath. And when it comes to the private equity, a lot of these guys, they have the money, they have big pockets, but it comes down to the way you treat people. And if they're not treating their people right at the company, they're gonna leave, and that's gonna reflect to the customer as well. Because if the people at the company aren't being treated right, what makes you think they're gonna go run through a brick wall for you? What makes you think they're gonna go take the extra step and taking care of the customer? What makes you think they're gonna go provide 5-star service? They're just trying to get home. But a lot of our guys here, they care so much about what they do. And it sounds so cliche, but that's a difference from us and a private equity is that we care about what we do every single day. We're not trying to, I mean, of course, we got to hit margins and quotas and things like that. But if we go to a single mother and we know she's down and we know she's been going through a lot, because we'll build that relationship to where people will pour their heart and soul out to our technicians and cry at the table sometimes. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, you can't afford us, man. Who am I to not, you know, I know I have the power to take care of a need. I know I have the power to make somebody comfortable. So for me to walk away just because of money and just because she can't afford us, that's not who we are. You know, I will make sure I take care of somebody, even if I have to. And I keep old units here that are working, and people always ask me, hey, why don't you throw them to the scrap? If we go to somebody's house and they can't pass credit and they don't have money, and I know, and my guys are real good judge of characters, obviously, and I know they need to be taken care of. And I know we tried everything we can possible to get approved on financing, wherever the case may be. My guys will call me and be like, hey, Cody, man, we tried everything we could possible. These people need help. And they'll tell me, like, hey, do we have any units laying around at the house? I'll come install it myself. Don't worry about paying the installers. I'll go install it myself. And I'll tell them, I'll go install it with you because we're here to take care of people. That's what we're here to do. Yeah, the money's good and all, but first and foremost, it just so happens that we do AC and heating, but we're here to take care of people. And I think
Right.
that's what San Antonio is all about. And
Right.
I think that's where a lot of these private equity guys kind of don't really look at it. Is they think they can jump into every single market and just take it over. San Antonio is really big on loyalty, having each other's back, showing up for each other. San Antonio, it's a big city, but it's a really tight community. And I think a lot of these private equity guys think they can just come in here and just use their money to overtake. But at the end of the day, I get a lot of customers I call and say, hey, we spend a lot of money with these private equity guys and, they're not treating us right. And they just took our money and ran. And, it's kind of crazy to hear that
Mm.
because, like I said, there has to be more to it than just making money.
Yeah.
There's more to life than just making money. And
Right. Right.
I think that's what the difference is between us and these private equity guys is that we know what to do. But the biggest thing with those guys that I told you that came in here, they came here and they're still here because we treat them right.
Yeah.
And these private equity guys, if they found, if I was them, I would probably make it a department of like kind of like I don't know, like life improvement or culture department or something to make sure that every single employee is happy. Because yeah, they have the money, they can advertise everywhere, they got 1,000 trucks flying around, but if they don't have somebody that's there that actually cares about the people and, they're involved in everybody's life, people are going to get fed up and they're going to leave, even if the money is great. So I think the biggest thing, like I said, it sounds cliche, but we care about what we
Yeah.
do.
It's tough though. You can't fabricate culture. Like you can't just make it up and say, hey, I'm gonna have a great culture. It's kind of in your DNA. Like it's what you really are. And I'm not picking on private equity. It's companies in general. Like sometimes you'll find companies try to really focus on culture and say they are, but it's just hollow. Like they might have a pretty break room or whatever, but you can see it's hollow. Like their turnover tells them it's hollow.
Oh,
Their reviews, their customer retention, all their employee retention. And so it's something that, to your point, like it starts from the heart to some degree. You got to really care about it's bigger than money. It's bigger than giving the appearance of a good culture. It's really about in tough times doing the right thing. So I'm with you.
definitely.
It's a big deal. I mean, there's a mindset there that's a lot deeper than just wanting to do it.
Yeah, and like you said, I'm not picking on them either, but
Yeah.
if some people just took the time to ask how somebody's day is going instead of telling them go sell another unit, I think it'll change a lot for these private equity guys. And I feel like if they do have the money, I feel like if they focused more on having somebody there that protected the culture and cared about everybody, they would be their turnover rate wouldn't be so high. And I think with the money they have to back up, I think it would be a good thing, but they're kind of missing that whole simply just having a genuine, conversation with their people and caring about
Yeah.
them.
Good stuff. Okay, so last thing I want to talk about a little bit is just margins and whatever you're open to sharing. What do you guys try to target in terms of margins? Like, do you have any general? Are you trying to be at a certain spot for like gross profit margin company wide, net profit margin? What do you guys look at? What's important to you?
Yeah, so when it comes to like system replacements, we want to be anywhere from 50 to 55%. When it comes to repairs, we want to be anywhere from 65 to 70. The toughest thing, and it's kind of a double-edged sword, we're over here talking about culture a lot, but if the company is not making, the right margins, there won't be no company. So a lot of our guys understand, that we got to take care of the company, we got to take care of the margins. It is a big deal because if you just forget about it, essentially there could be one person in the company that can be a margin killer and they can tank the whole company. And at the end of the year, you won't realize that there's no money in the bank and it'll be too late. So it's really a big deal. And it's even more of a big deal for us now. I'm kind of not chasing the top line anymore, the 20, 30 million, more chasing, the margins because I understand, the margins being there. That's what's going to grow the company and that's what's going to change people's lives. The more money that's in the bank, we're able to give more bonuses or, be able to do special things in people's lives and be able to take care of people past what they can ever imagine. But the money has to be there. So when it comes to the margins, that's kind of like my biggest thing now. And like I were talking about recruiting earlier, I know you said don't say names, so it's hard for me to say, but I had this guy that been working here this past month and he's been really big on margins. So being able to, pick his brain and being able for him to hold my feet to the fire as well. Because these past couple of years, I was worried about sales, and get to 20 million, get to 20 million. But at the end of the day, if we're getting to 20 million and not retaining nothing, there's no point of it. We're kind of just killing ourselves and doing busy work for really nothing. So the margins are really important, not necessarily for the company. I look past it. I want the margins to be there so I am able to change people's lives and be able to do different things for our employees here. So when it comes to margins, the gentleman I'm talking about,
Is that your new
that's
CFO? Because you mentioned this last time. You're welcome to say his name if you want to. I don't mind.
yeah, no, he's not our CFO, but he's
Oh,
going to
okay.
be our assistant general manager and he's going to be
Okay.
our marketing director and his
Very
name's
cool.
Dan.
Dan.
Yeah, his name is Dan. He brings a totally new, different structure to the company like I've never seen before, but it also goes back to being family owned for so many years. And our main focus is to be family owned, but professionally operated. There's a difference from being family owned and family operated. So being family owned and professionally operated, that's where Dan comes in. And He's bringing a whole different structure to the company to where, I'll even sit back and say that I would have never been able to bring to the company myself. And that's part of, the recruiting process and understanding there is a time to step back and hiring the right people, to get us to the next level because whoever got us to 10 to 20 isn't going to get us to 30, 40, 50. My goal is to get towards 50 without private equity. That's what my goal is. And I know it sounds crazy, but I'm crazy, I'm willing to try. I'm
I
willing
love
to
it.
try. And the last thing I want to do is not be able to say I didn't, not be able to say that I didn't try. I at least want to say that I tried and did the best I can. But that's putting the right people in the right place. And when it comes to family owned and professionally operated, the family's there and it's owned by family, but Dan brings in the professionally operated part and all the other guys that came here, Franco, Charlie, Robert, Art, Darren, Tyler, these guys are coming from big private equity. And all these guys came from private equity and they're coming to a family owned company. And these guys are bringing in things that I've never seen before, sales processes and all sorts of stuff. And, that's me putting my ego inside and letting these guys, speak at our meetings and not putting them down and not trying to act like I know everything. And, bringing these people in is what is changing the business today. So the family owned and professionally operated, and that's what I'm going to live and die by for a good while.
That's awesome. Okay, in terms of wrapping up, I got one thing I want to ask you. So, a lot of times I'll have potential new clients come to me, and they're probably somewhere around 4 to 6 million a year in revenue, and they're kind of stuck. Their margins are mediocre, their net profits mediocre, and I understand each one might have their own challenges.
Yeah.
But when you hear that, I'd love to know, like, if a few things could come to your mind, like, hey, this is what I would, because you're a guy that's done it now, got past that threshold by quite a bit. What are some things you should look at in your business that's going to get you over that hump?
The margin thing is being okay to walk away from a job or whatever the case you want to call it that's not going to benefit the company. That was a big thing for me early on
Okay.
is that a lot of these companies in town, we have a company in town that's advertising 5,000 for a complete system with a 10-year parts, labor and maintenance. It's like, man, like you're not going to be able to keep the doors open. And
Right.
if you go for the dollar, a lot of people aren't going to have a job because the doors won't be open. So understanding that it's okay to walk away is a big deal that big thing that I've had to internalize. And it's still tough with me today. I'm still
Sure.
trying. It's hard for me to walk away, but I would say that the call by call management is a game changer. That's the
Okay.
one thing that I would love to stress about the most is don't just let anybody dispatch your calls. You got to have somebody that's really going to dig deep on the calls, go the extra mile, build a relationship over the phone with the customer. Because the thing is that we want to let the customer know that we're sending in the best person to do this job. That we would send this person to our grandma's house or my mother's house, or this guy is the guy for the job. So the call by call management is literally, I would say between the 4 and 6 million. If anybody's stuck there, that's the number one thing you want to go look at is you want to figure out who's dispatching your calls because you can't just let them dispatch it and walk away. You got to be so in depth with those calls because of course, the main goal is to get past the 4 to 6 million, right? The call by call management is huge, and it starts all the way from because a lot of companies do call by call management, but
Right.
we're talking about the end of it. The beginning of it is the dispatch, taking in the call, taking that next step to, call the customer and, get more information from them, make that genuine relationship. So if anybody's trying to get out of the 4 to 6 million, I'm an open book. They can call me. I think we're gonna put my LinkedIn on here later. They can message me on LinkedIn, but I'm an open book. I'm willing to share whatever ideas or whatever experience I have. But the call by call management is huge. And then from there, when it comes to margins, that's just, drawing the line and, not stepping over that line. If you want to hold your margins to a certain extent or to a certain spot, you got to draw a line. And
Right.
now where we're at today, Dan, that is going to be his main thing. We're going to split up a lot of stuff, me and him, what I'm really excited for. But his main thing is going to make sure our margins are there. And if
It's
our
huge.
margins are right, he's going to come knocking on my door and somebody's going to hold me accountable. So, just draw the margins, is drawing your line, making sure you don't cross it. And the thing is, too, is like, we got to understand, like, what the customers what the customers want, not selling things that they don't need or selling things that aren't going to benefit them. Because a lot of times, if we're talking about a complete system package, not everybody cares about IAQ. Not everybody cares about duct cleaning. Some people just want just a system, something to turn on and turn off. So if you're offering everything at a discounted price and the customer doesn't even want it, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. So,
Right.
being able to really sit down with the customer, having a genuine conversation, figuring out what their pain points and what their needs are, drawing the line when it comes to margins and call by call management is huge. It is the biggest thing that I can say between the 4 and 6 million. Past the 6 million, once you get to 10, 15, and so on, I would say it's putting the right people in the right spot, bringing the right people into the company, taking a step back and realizing, hey, you're not going to be the one that's going to get you to the 20, the 30, whatever the case may be. So,
Leadership team best bet
oh
definitely
yeah,
starts to play in there. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, couple things here as we wrap up. That's awesome info you just gave. So your LinkedIn link I'll put in the show notes. Cody Martinez, first and last name. I'm sure people can find you if they want to search. You're with cowboysac.com is your business website. Cowboysac.com. It's Cowboys Air Conditioning and Heating in San Antonio. Cody, you are amazing. I mean, in fact, your whole family, as I imagine, I'd love to someday, if I'm ever out in your
yeah.
way, I'd probably go out of my way to try to meet you guys because you're all just, you sound like you're just a really tight knit, very high values. You care about your employees, you care about your customers. You don't, and you live it. It feels like you live it. It doesn't feel like something that's printed on a card or something that's posted to a refrigerator, but you don't actually live it. And I think, dude, it's just amazing to hear a company and a guy like you. It's really cool.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And if you're ever in town, don't get a hotel. Don't think about buying dinner. I'll take care of all that for you. I got an extra bedroom. I'll take care of your stay. I'll take care of everything. If you're ever in town, it'd be my pleasure. It'd be my
Yeah.
pleasure to shake your hand. It really will, because I appreciate it. You're the first person that's ever given me the
Yes.
opportunity to speak out. So I'll remember this forever, and I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I really do.
And on that note, if there is anyone out there like listening that has a podcast, I'd be happy to connect you with Cody. His story is just fabulous. I felt like we just touched a very fraction. You know, you were kind enough to come on to one of my clients' board meetings, and you were sick, and you had a bad cold, and you spent, I don't know, did we talk for 2 hours or was it 90 minutes? But I mean, it was long. It was a
It was
marathon.
long. It
And
was
you
long.
told your whole story. You went through slide by slide. It was raw. It was real. Just what a gift you gave to us. And I appreciate you replicating that here. It was a really cool conversation. I hope we do get a chance to talk again in the future, Cody.
We will. Thank you again. Like I said, I can't put in words. It means the bottom of my heart. You gave me this opportunity. I don't
Thanks, man.
want to. I don't want to cry right now, but it's my family deserves to be able to speak their story. So, you doing this for us, it means a lot. It really does.
Thanks, man. Take care, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Profit and Grit. Failed is profit and grit, not luck and a wish. From the wrench to the spreadsheet, we're stacking our chips. Slow season hits, man, we tighten the ship.